Hello. This is the Bible in fewer words. We are Carol and Steve Wells. This is episode 248. Matthew, chapters 27 and 28. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Carol. We're going to finish our first gospel today.
That is such great news.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit long.
Yes, it is.
So we should probably get going.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 27. The next morning, all the chief priests and elders met to plan Jesus' death. They tied him up, led him away, and delivered him to Pontius Pilate, the governor.
Meanwhile, Judas felt bad about betraying Jesus. So he returned the 30 pieces of silver coins to the chief priests and elders and said, "I was wrong to betray Jesus." They said to him, "What's that to us? That's your problem."
So Judas threw down the silver coins in the temple and went to hang himself. The chief priests took the silver coins and said, "We can't put these in the treasury because they are blood money."
So they bought the potter's field to bury strangers in.
So the field was called the Field of Blood. It is still called that today.
This was to fulfill the prophecy in Jeremiah, saying, "They took 30 pieces of silver coins, the price of a person as valued by the Israelites, and spent them on a potter's field, as the Lord commanded me."
I don't remember Jeremiah's prophecy.
Yeah, it actually isn't in Jeremiah. The author of Matthew made a little mistake there. It's actually from Zechariah.
Oh, okay.
And it doesn't really say exactly what he's saying it says, but he's referring to Zechariah, not Jeremiah.
Verse 11. Jesus stood in front of the governor, who asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?"
Jesus answered, "You say that I am."
When Jesus was accused by the chief priests and elders, he didn't say anything. Pilate said to him, "Do you hear what the witnesses have said against you?"
Jesus didn't say a single word, and Pilate wondered why.
At the feast of Passover, the governor liked to release a prisoner to please the people. Barabbas was a well-known prisoner. So Pilate asked the people, "Which should I release, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ?"
Pilate's wife said to him, "Don't have anything to do with this just man. I had a bad dream about him."
But the chief priests and elders convinced the crowd to ask for Barabbas instead of Jesus. Pilate asked the crowd, "Which should I release for you?"
The crowd answered, "Barabbas." Pilate asked them, "What should I do with Jesus, who is called Christ?"
The crowd all said to him, "Crucify him." Pilate said, "Why? What did he do that was wrong?"
But the crowd shouted even louder, "Crucify him." When Pilate saw that he couldn't change their minds, he washed his hands in front of the crowd, saying, "I am not responsible for this just man's death. It's your fault."
Then all the people said, "We are responsible for his death, we and our children."
Pilate then released Barabbas to the crowd, had Jesus whipped, and delivered to be crucified. Did you notice when the people were demanding that Jesus be crucified?
Mm-hmm.
And Pilate's kind of saying, trying to talk him out of it.
Yeah.
And then they say, "No, it's our fault. Blame it on us and our children."
Yeah.
They didn't just mean their children. They meant their children's children down to today. This is the Jews. And so this has been used throughout history to condemn Jews as Christ killers.
Yeah. Still today.
Mm-hmm. So this is a verse that's used the most by anti-Semitic people to attack Jews.
Jesus.
And that's one of the themes of the Gospel of Matthew. The Gospel of Matthew is trying to show that Jesus was the Jewish Messiah sent by God to the Jews.
And they rejected him.
Yeah. And so God then rejected them and is going to punish them for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'll be punished throughout history because their ancestors rejected Jesus.
Verse 27. The soldiers stripped Jesus and dressed him in a scarlet robe. Then they put a crown of thorns on his head, a stick in his hand, and bowed to him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!"
Then they spit on him and hit him on the head with a reed.
After mocking Jesus, they took off the robe, put his own clothes back on him, and led him away to be crucified.
As they went out, they found a man from Cyrene named Simon, and they forced him to carry Jesus' cross.
When they came to a place called Golgotha, meaning a place of a skull, they gave Jesus vinegar mixed with gall to drink. But when Jesus tasted it, he refused to drink.
Then they crucified him, dividing his clothes among them.
They put a sign over his head saying, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews."
2 thieves were crucified next to Jesus, one on his right and one on his left.
Everyone that passed by mocked Jesus, saying, "You said you could destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days? If you're the Son of God, come down from the cross."
The priests, scribes, and elders also mocked him, saying, "He saved others, but he can't save himself. We'll believe he's the King of Israel if he comes down from the cross."
He said, "I am the Son of God, so he should ask God to save him now." The 2 thieves also mocked him. The land was dark for 3 hours that afternoon. Then Jesus cried out, saying, "My God, why have you forsaken me?"
Some who were nearby said, "He's calling for Elijah." Someone took a sponge filled with vinegar, put it on a reed, and gave it to him to drink.
Everyone else said, "Let's see if Elijah comes to save him."
Jesus cried out again and died. The veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom, and there was an earthquake, and the rocks split.
Verse 52. Graves opened and dead people roamed the streets of Jerusalem. The centurion saw the earthquake, was afraid, and said, "Truly, this was the Son of God." Many women who were followers of Jesus watched from far away. Among these were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee.
Yeah, so there's a few things to talk about here. First of all, we have graves opening. So the graves opened, and the dead people got up and wandered around the streets of Jerusalem, apparently. You would think this would be something that would be known in history, right? It would be kind of a big deal.
Yes.
And then you also wonder, well, what happened afterwards? Did the walking dead, did they continue to walk around Jerusalem like forever? Or did they
walk back to their graves?
Did they have to walk back to their graves? Something to show that Jesus is
an important guy, and this shouldn't ought to happen.
Right. And then also we had an earthquake and rock split. So big doings going on there.
Yes.
And then it says there were some women there. And they were all named Mary. We have Mary Magdalene. And then we have Mary, the mother of James and Joseph.
Okay, who is that?
No one seems to know. It's debated to this day.
So might they have been brothers of Jesus?
They might have been, because earlier in Matthew, remember Jesus was rejected in Galilee, in his hometown?
By, the people there.
And apparently even his family. And they mentioned there that he had brothers, James and Joseph, but also 2 other brothers and I think some sisters. Now, some people say, well, that's not really his brothers because Mary was always a virgin. Or maybe they were the sons of Joseph from a previous marriage. They could have been half brothers, right? Say that Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, is also the mother of Jesus.
Yeah.
You would think, since Jesus is kind of the star of the whole show
Story,
here, they would say Mary, Jesus' mother.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And they would list her first.
She would be even more important than Mary Magdalene. If it was Jesus' mom, you'd think it would be made clear here.
Yes.
And it isn't. So many scholars doubt that this was referring to Mary.
So there are 2 ways we can look at this verse. Mary wasn't there, Mary the mother of Jesus, just these other Marys here, or that they just didn't name her.
They didn't mention her, which would be strange.
Yes.
To have so many Marys, and apparently not one of them being
the important Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on.
Yes.
Verse 57. A rich follower of Jesus named Joseph of Arimathea asked Pilate for Jesus' body. Pilate agreed to give it to him.
Joseph took the body, wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and laid it in a tomb that was carved into a rock.
He then rolled a large stone over the entrance and left.
The next day the chief priests and Pharisees said to Pilate, Jesus said while he was still alive, "After 3 days I will rise again. So please place guards at the tomb to make sure that his followers don't steal the body and claim that he rose from the dead."
Pilate said to them, "You have guards. Watch it yourself." So they set a guard at the tomb.
This story here about Joseph of Arimathea and Pilate allowing them to take the body down from the cross and bury it is extremely unlikely, scholars say, because the main reason that he would be crucified, it was done to make a point. The point is you're going to die a horrible, gruesome death, and your body is going to be exposed to the elements while you're dying, and the birds of prey are going to be eating your flesh, and you're going to be rotting there in front of everybody. It was a public, humiliating death.
Yeah.
Bodies weren't taken down. That was the whole point, is to leave them up.
Yeah.
So kind of unlikely Pilate would agree to that.
Okay.
It is also unlikely that the Jews were really to blame for his crucifixion, because Jesus was claiming to be the King of the Jews, the Messiah. That would be a real problem to the governor of Judea, because
he's the king.
He's the king, right. Well, he's not the king exactly, but he's a man in charge. He doesn't want another king in town.
Yeah. Okay, chapter 28. Around dawn on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to the sepulchre. When they arrived, there was a big earthquake. Again?
Yeah.
An angel of the Lord rolled back the stone that closed the tomb and sat on it. He looked like lightning, and his clothes were white as snow.
When the guards saw him, they shook with fear and looked like dead men.
The angel said, "He's not here. He is risen from the dead. Come see where his body was. Run and tell his disciples that he has risen. He'll meet them in Galilee."
As they ran to tell his disciples, Jesus met them and said, "Hello, everyone."
They grabbed him by his feet and worshipped him. He said to them, "Don't be afraid. Tell my brothers to go to Galilee, and they'll see me there."
When the guards told the chief priests what happened, the priests bribed them to say that Jesus' disciples came and stole the body while they slept.
Verse 16. The 11 disciples went to Galilee, to a mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When the disciples saw Jesus, they worshipped him, but some doubted.
Jesus said to them, "I have power over everything in heaven and on earth. Go teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost. Teach them to obey whatever I have commanded you. I am with you always, even to the end of the world. Amen."
That's it.
That's
the end of Matthew.
Yeah, but did you notice something strange in this? I mean, it's all a little bit strange.
Yes, I did notice something strange. The disciples saw Jesus, worshipped him, period, but some doubted.
But some doubted.
Did you alter those words from the original text?
No.
What does that mean?
Well,
some doubted.
Sounds like they doubted.
Some of the disciples doubted.
Yeah. Well, you have a guy come back.
Yeah.
It's hard to recognize people sometimes.
They think maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it's another guy.
Yeah. Well, people thought sometimes that Jesus was the resurrected John the Baptist, right? Mm-hmm. So the thing is, when somebody comes back to life, you don't know. That's not Jesus. That's somebody else.
Yeah.
Right? It's just some guy, but it's not Jesus. Doesn't even look like him, or doesn't look like him to me.
Yeah. He's wearing white clothes now.
He's all jazzed up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's now fancy. Who knows what the cause of their doubt might be?
Mm-hmm.
But that some of his disciples doubted when they saw him after the resurrection makes you kind of wonder, if they're not sure about it, how could anyone else be?
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're done with Matthew.
Yeah, we are.
I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
All right, listeners, thanks for staying with us. And Steve, again, thanks for all your work.
Sure.
Bye-bye.